following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
From wherever we decide studios, broadcasted live on iTunes, Spreaker, and worldwide, this is the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast with your host, the producer, Pat G. The G stands for Gangsta. And now kick back and get ready for the eargasms.
To Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast. This is Pat G along with Dan Fury. Yes, we are back for the second time this week as we are on episode number 90, 10 away from the century mark, ladies and gentlemen. And boy, do we have a lot of talk about. Not so much WWE related. I'm sure we're going to touch on WWE, especially NXT, but we're going to focus on all the other stuff that has happened in the last week or so of professional wrestling, especially with some title changes and some people getting pushes, some signings, and much, much more. And starting off first, we have new tag team champions in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
New Japan, coming out of the gate this year with Wrestle Kingdom and the fact that you've got now, Naito, they walked out with Naito 2 belts. You've got new tag team champions in New Japan. And, of course, one of my personal favorites that I want to get into and talk about with New Japan is Jon Moxley's continuing reinvention of himself when it comes to his tour over in Japan. What are your thoughts with everything that New Japan has been doing? Because, unfortunately, we talked about it earlier in the week. It was on Royal Rumble episode. We didn't really get a chance to get into everything. How do you feel, Pat G, about New Japan this year starting off hot the way they have?
They are trying to build themselves up to the American audience, because for the most part, the American audience, as far as New Japan goes, went as far as your hardcore wrestling fans. Plain and simple. Your everyday casual wrestling fans, probably that watch WWE on a regular basis, they don't really know too much about what's going on in New Japan Wrestling. They don't know about Naito. They don't know about Okada. They don't know about Juice Robinson. Yeah, they hear about Jon Moxley being over there, and they may tune in or see highlights and everything, but they're not waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch 5 hours of wrestling.
Oh, especially 2 nights in a row like you and I both did.
Yeah.
This year.
Not to mention they're not waking up at various times of the morning to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling throughout February with like a week worth of shows.
Yeah, and one of the things that really has got me about New Japan and the way that they're going is they are spotlighting talent that has either been in the wings, like, okay, we want to talk about, the Gorillas of Destiny, New Japan Tag Team Champions. What started off as, strangely enough to say this, a couple years ago, a heavy Bullet Club emphasized showing in New Japan. This year, to start off the year, if you go back to Wrestle Kingdom Night 1 and Night 2, Bullet Club didn't come out with any victories. Bullet Club kind of took a lot of losses, with the exception of Kenta's surprise attack at the end of Night 2 when Naito won both championships. For the most part, they kind of went cold. And then all of a sudden, here you're walking out, Gorillas of Destiny are your New Japan Tag Team Champions of the world.
Not to mention, you had the change of the Neverweight championship as well.
Yeah, I mean, with what New Japan is doing, I will 100% agree with you. New Japan is trying to get that American audience that maybe has strayed away from the product. Maybe, when certain members of New Japan's roster left, they may have lost interest in the product. New Japan is going out and they're getting them back. I mean, if you look at it, you got, Guerrillas of Destiny are your new champions. Jon Moxley is your United States heavyweight champion, which no one thought was going to happen. I mean, especially considering the politics that's going on currently between New Japan and AEW.
Yes.
I certainly did not think that Jon Moxley was going to come out favorably either night of Wrestle Kingdom, last month, and he's still going over to Japan. I mean, in what is about to be the most insane sentence to come out of my mouth, he and Okada teamed up at a recent event in Japan. That is the most insane thing that I can say on this show tonight. That Jon Moxley, the United States champion for New Japan Pro Wrestling and number one contender for the AEW championship, and Okada.
Yep.
Although it was a dream moment, they were a team. So they are going out there and they are giving you characters and wrestlers that are already established, and they're really showcasing them with other talent. And it's like, this could be a turnaround for New Japan. If they were worried about losing anyone fan base wise due to new promotions starting up or the expansion of WWE as they've made trips over to Japan, I don't think we have anything to worry about with New Japan in the future. I think that it's even looking brighter because you and I have talked about it. Professional wrestling is hitting a new renaissance, I feel, with especially with on-demand content, and they're constantly giving you some of the best professional wrestling on the planet.
Not to mention that, you listen to the old school you listen to the podcaster on a weekly basis now with the Podfather Conrad Thompson and Tony Schiavone and Eric Bischoff and JR and Bruce Pritchard and everything, and they're talking about all the old stuff, but they're talking about the new stuff. It's one of them things that, granted, yes, you still have wrestling, you still have the dirt sheets, you still have rumors and everything, but wrestling has become so accessible not in today's world that it's no longer the taboo thing that it was 30, 40 years ago.
No, the funny part about it is that, not to get political, but recently, the president of this is the mainstream accessibility of professional wrestling. Recently, the president of the United States and WWE Hall of Famer,
yes,
gave his State of the Union. The Hall of Famer gave his State of the Union address, and a representative made a comment that I've heard enough. Of this fakeness, and made a slighted comment about it being very professional wrestling-esque. Very, very fake.
Yep, and then Governor Kane.
And then we got Mayor Kane out of nowhere with a chair shot being like, sir, you're part of the problem here. And then you get to thinking about it, and you're like, in what bizarro world is it normal for an elected official to be like, man, this is as fake as pro wrestling? And then an elected official who is himself a professional wrestler comes out of the woodwork to be like, slow your roll, kid. I mean, if you want to look at it, professional wrestling is at an apex as far as accessibility. Maybe not necessarily popularity like the Attitude Era. I mean, I recently saw a figure where on this date, this past Monday, 8 million people combined were watching Raw and SmackDown. And it was more of a inquisitive, where did they all go? I think they're there. I just think they're either viewing the product in a different way, or you need to engage that audience in a different way and maybe not be so insulting to their intelligence. To me, it's awesome that when I'm doing my 1 hour cardio before I go into my circuit training, I can access my phone, turn it on New Japan World, and watch the product while I'm training. I love the fact that I am able to see, I have the Fight app.
Yep.
That when Ring of Honor's episode is up, I get to see that. I love when I get a notification on my phone on YouTube that the latest episode of NWA Power is available to watch. I love seeing trailers for upcoming shows that are going to be premiering on the network within the coming weeks. To me, there's an accessibility that we've never had with pro wrestling.
No, not at all.
And New Japan is not only with their app, but with especially social media. They give you the snippets of their shows, especially on Facebook, that get you salivating.
Yep.
Like to me, waking up and seeing Okada and Moxley standing next to each other was like, okay, this is a Bizarro World moment. And then, you find out that Bullet Club once again now has titles, and of course their merchandise is changing as well.
Yes.
They're getting away from the classic white skull and guns, and they're really starting to gear their merchandise even to a wider audience, to where if you were to see it, it's Bullet Club that you're familiar with the name, but it's by design something different that you're not used to seeing.
Yeah, because this is the thing is with the Bullet Club is everybody that owns like the black t-shirt with the white skull and everything. That Bullet Club is your Cody Rhodes, your Kenny Omega, your Young Bucks, basically the elite, mixed in with like AJ Styles and Adam Cole and whatnot. But like now it's become basically the Bullet Club has become what the Bullet Club once was when Prince Devitt was running the show.
Uh-huh.
And instead of Prince Devitt running the show, it's Kenta, which is Finn Balor's one of his best friends in professional wrestling. So,
and I mean, it's nice that these things are coming full circle. And as a professional wrestling fan, I have to tell you, reinvention, especially of a well-known group. I mean, you look at Bullet Club. I see the Bullet Club T-shirt everywhere.
Not to mention with all the plays on it.
Yes, the basic underlying Bullet Club design.
Yes.
Whether it's an iteration all the way even to Vigilante Club. Like I have the Stephen Amell Vigilante Club shirt. I rock that shirt all the time.
So do I. I have it as well, and I constantly wear it.
I'm a Green Arrow fan. What can I say? Oliver Queen for life. But the thing that really gets me is that shirt has become as recognizable as the Austin 316, the DX, and the NWO shirts were in the Attitude Era. In fact, I would even go on a limb to say, and I know that there might be some here that will argue, that shirt, the recognition of that shirt, is what got the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes and Chris Jericho Hot Topic deals.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
It is what, I mean, they being the Young Bucks have even said it on various outlets that, one of the marketing peeps from Hot Topic saw the shirt WrestleMania weekend and was like, contact the WWE. How do we get that shirt? And they're like, oh, that's other people. It's like, well, those other people now have their own organization but that shirt was an offshoot of what was started in New Japan. So if you think about it, a non-American product is one of the most recognizable products in America for professional wrestling, and it's getting a revamp.
Absolutely. It's essentially, I look at the original Bullet Club shirt on the same, and like you said, it's on the same wavelengths as DX and NWO and Austin 316. You could even say that shirt's on the same wavelength as the original red and yellow Hulk Hogan shirt.
I knew you were going to go there. I kind of had a feeling the way you were building that statement.
With how noticeable it is and how recognizable it is, like, the minute you see red and yellow and you see Hulk on it, you know it's the Hulkamania shirt. You automatically know where it's from. Like, okay,
I will agree with this. This is the Japanese wrestling's Yellowfinger.
Yeah.
This is definitely Japanese wrestling's Yellowfinger, because although there have been enormous names that have come out of Japan as far as modern and classic professional wrestling goes, when it comes to merchandise,
nothing has been crossed over as like that shirt.
Exactly. You can go anywhere in the world and see a Hulkamania shirt and know it's Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
You can go, you can go anywhere in the world and see that Bullet Club logo and know it's New Japan and know that it's the Bullet Club. And at least know one iteration. I know this is going to be a strange comparison, but just follow me. It's almost like Doctor Who.
Yep.
In that everyone remembers their first doctor that introduced them to a particular time in the lengthy series of Doctor Who, whether it's Doctor Who Classic on BBC or the modern. Everyone remembers the doctor that got them into it.
Yeah.
Like, are you a diehard fan from back in the day of Prince Devitt and Gallows and Anderson and Tama Tonga? Are you that? Are you the AJ Styles version? Are you the Omega Cody iteration? Are you the Kenta Tama Tonga version that we have today? Which way are you? But regardless, that symbol is recognizable. And you got to give New Japan credit for revamping that, and the fact that this year has started off so big for them right off the rip. I cannot wait to see what we get by the summertime. By Dominion, we could have a complete paradigm shift within that company, because there are certain stars that want to see AEW cross-pollinate.
Oh yeah,
and I do think it's inevitable. I do think it is.
For as over as he is, I wonder, and as hard-hitting as New Japan Pro Wrestling is, and the Japanese love that, like, hard-hitting, strong-style action, I could just imagine how crazy they would go for, like, an Orange Cassidy.
I see. Well, I mean, did I not see for Joey Janela's spring break, is Suzuki versus Orange Cassidy not a thing coming up?
I think it is.
I think it's Joey Janela's spring break event coming up within the next month. Orange Cassidy versus Minoru Suzuki. That's a thing. And that is a thing that, like, as a wrestling fan, I sit there and I'm just like, either someone is going to die, or this is going to be one of the most entertaining 15 minutes that you're going to see all year. Because that is a match that could happen. I think that they would lose their minds for Orange Cassidy. I think Jurassic Express versus the Gorillas of Destiny, or Evil and Sonata, would be a freaking amazing. Any of the LIJ versus LAX, any version of that, or anyone in the inner circle. I think that these are possibilities this year. I think that Jericho very slyly, along with Tanahashi, laid the seeds and the groundwork for what could be the Forbidden Portal, as we've talked about.
Yeah, they did announce Minoru Suzuki versus Orange Cassidy for Janela's Spring Break 4.
Jeez, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Like, that's going to happen. And there's a little kid inside of me that's like, oh, that's going to be so fun. And you look at New Japan, and it seems like I think that there would be more willingness to do business on both ends than it's being led on.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, it would only bring New Japan to a wider audience, because could you imagine, New Japan has already been represented on TNT in the past, on WCW Nitro. Wouldn't it be kind of cool to see New Japan Pro Wrestling represented again on American television on a major network like TNT, if only for crossover appeal for certain matches that we'd want to see? Like, yes, I think Okada showing up on TNT would mean a hell of a lot more than Triple H trying to poach him, which, according to rumors, is something that Triple H is actively attempting to do.
He's trying. I thought of something the other night when I was watching something, and I thought about something. Is the end of the interaction between Moxley and Suzuki at New Japan, when Suzuki just came out and was like, "Yo, I'm ripping my tracksuit off. Let's go."
Yeah.
Imagine if Moxley wins the AEW championship at Revolution.
Yes.
And he's celebrating or whatever, and the lights go off, and all of a sudden the lights come back on, and Suzuki's in the middle of the ring.
I would piss myself, if you want the honest truth. I would pee my pants, and I would openly admit it in public, because that would be a moment in time. And I mean, we as wrestling fans, we come up with these dream match scenarios, and we come up with these what ifs, and that is one of those what ifs where, you think that Suzuki wants the United States Championship. What if he's thinking bigger?
Exactly.
What if he's like, oh, you have 2 belts I want. Yeah, hand it over. And I think that he would be a fine representative of the hardcore audience, because if that were to happen, let's play fantasy booking.
Yep.
And let's put our fantasy booker hat on. In that environment, it would mean more of him showing up and doing that than, dare I say, Okada showing up on WWE television.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that if Okada were to show up, it would the only way it could work is if it was on NXT, and to me, it would be so much of a demotion.
Oh, and
to have Okada show up on NXT.
Plus,
because NXT. Go ahead.
Plus, nothing against WWE or NXT is, at this point in time, I have no faith in WWE or NXT booking Japanese talent.
Now, are you talking about, Kushida and Alex Shelley during the...
I'm talking about everybody.
Okay.
Granted, Asuka had the run and everything, and she's doing great now after the heel turn and everything. But if you look at the
great NXT run.
But if you look at the overall picture of when they've brought legit people who have been stars in Japan over, they've not really done well with that.
Why do you think that is? Do you think that it's the characters don't translate as well? Or do you think that, it's been long talked about in professional wrestling that Vince McMahon worries about Vince McMahon's world, and if you come into it, everything is kind of left at the door and ignored to a certain extent? Would there being clear cases where that's not the case? Like, Nature Boy Ric Flair came over as Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Like, there was very little changed about Nature Boy, if anything, if you think about either his initial run in 91 or his current run when he came back in 2001?
Yeah. Like, same thing. Like, Ric Flair's one of the few people that have come over and still been his character. Dusty Rhodes came over and he got put in polka dots.
Yeah, I mean, even in most recent times, like, okay, so I recently got into Diamond Dallas Page's book.
Yes.
Positively Unstoppable. If you wrestling fans have not read it or listened to it on audiobook, it is well worth the read and well worth the listen, especially if you want to get in the mindset of the guy who created DDPY and exactly how this program has become so successful. But one of the things that he talks about in the book is his initial stint in WWE in 2001 to like 2002, and how, he wanted one thing: the People's Champ versus the People's Champ, DDP versus The Rock. He saw himself as that hard-working Jersey guy character.
Yep.
And instead, he got turned into Sarah Stalker.
Yep.
Which even he in the book, hilariously in the book, he's like, if anyone saw my wife, they would have known that was bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of sit there and you're like, yeah, Paige is kind of right. But then you think about it, right? Even Sting.
Yep.
As a Sting fanatic, both as a kid and as a teenager, when Sting showed up in WWE,
he wasn't. It wasn't Sting itself.
It wasn't Sting. It was Sting. Okay, this is gonna sound weird. It was Sting, but the vigilante Sting. It's almost like they tried to turn him into this over-the-top silent card. It's like they tried to do the silent Sting, but also he needed to talk. And Sting is one great promo.
Yep.
And the match that he and Triple H had at WrestleMania,
great nostalgia pop.
Great nostalgia pops all around. But I thought that Sting had more to offer. And in fact, if it wasn't for the neck injury,
that he suffered.
Champions,
yep. Sting probably would have got a title run.
Not only would Sting would have gotten his match with Undertaker.
Yep.
Had that incident not happened. If you go back and you watch everything in that match but the last 4 minutes, that was a great match.
Oh, absolutely.
That was a phenomenally well executed match. But the character was still it was Sting, but it wasn't.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's the unfortunate part, I think, with some of the transitioning from Japanese wrestlers and their personas overseas to what you get now.
It's one of the things is, it's probably part of the character that doesn't transition. It's also maybe part of the ring work that doesn't transition, because there's so many American wrestling fans that aren't used to seeing the Japanese strong style. Because all you gotta do is look. Shinsuke Nakamura came over and they were WWE was like, he's the king of strong style and everything, but yet Nakamura wasn't really doing strong style.
No, he was really what
he dumbed it down to be into the WWE world.
Okay, even I'll take one step with you on this one. I I believe within the realm of NXT, we saw more of that strong style
Yes.
than when he got up to main roster. And I think one of the reasonings, one of the determining factors behind that may have been the John Cena match.
Yep.
Where you had a wrestler like John Cena who I believe that people don't give John Cena the credit for the fact that his adaptation to certain styles is so fluid, because this is a guy who could go out there and have an NWA style match with Triple H, okay? He could go out there and have a match with Shawn Michaels, but then when given the opportunity, you go back and you watch his matches with either CM Punk
Or Daniel Bryan.
AJ Styles, or Kevin Owens.
Yep.
He's able to adapt his style to what you would call the independent, the Ring of Honor style. Okay? He was able to change. I don't think John Cena was adapt to the strong style.
No.
But I think a part of that is that his youthfulness was not there. I think John Cena maybe 6 years ago could have adapted great to Shinsuke's style.
Oh, yeah. John Cena in the middle of his run and prime most likely could have adapted to that style. But the John Cena that faced him when they did definitely couldn't.
Yeah, which is insane when we're having this conversation, because John Cena is younger than Le Champion.
Yeah.
But Le Champion also picked up a lot of that strong style in the early 90s. He kind of was ahead of the curve as far as what strong style was going to become.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, guys like Chris Jericho, guys like Rey Mysterio, they wrestled in Japan and Mexico and Germany and Canada, and with different styles and different disciplines and genres, where they've been able to mold themselves to where Chris Jericho can pretty much have a match with anybody nowadays.
Now, can I ask you a question as a wrestling fan? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you feel that by the creation of places like the Performance Center, which is absolutely breathtaking, state-of-the-art, they are going above and beyond in order to create the superstars of tomorrow. Do you feel that hinders? Because if you look at it, every company has a style. There's a WWE style. There's a New Japan style. There's a Ring of Honor style. There are certain companies that are kind of hybrids of all. Ring of Honor, NWA, Impact, has got all of those styles kind of combined due to the youth and experience of certain superstars that they've got, or wrestlers that they've got. We mentioned John Cena. Maybe his style wasn't adapt. Do you think part of that comes from, I don't want to call it a factory turnout, but the fact that you get to WWE with a certain set of moves and a certain style of your own, and then they mold you to fit what they need, so that you're able to work within their system, their presentation of the wrestling product. Do you think that hinders guys, or do you think in a certain way it actually saves their career? Because I've had conversations recently where people have said the Ricochet that we have in WWE is not the Ricochet that you saw in PWG or anywhere else, and it's this dumbed down kind of softened version of Ricochet. But this softened version of Ricochet is going to last for 5 or 10 years. He's a brand now at this point.
Yeah.
Do you think that helps, or do you think that hinders certain wrestlers' style and transitioning into pro wrestling, into WWE's version of pro wrestling?
I think it hinders certain people. I I think it helps certain people. It goes on both sides of the coin. Where in Ricochet's view of it, it's going to help him long term because Ricochet is still relatively young enough to where he can be in the WWE for 5 to 10 years and be somebody they build behind at some point. Whereas someone like, and you can even look at Rey Mysterio, Rey Mysterio said it himself in interviews. When Rey Mysterio finally came to WWE, Rey Mysterio was still being the Rey Mysterio that everybody knew he was, and he's paid for it with the multiple knee surgeries. To where he's had to change his style up. Yeah, he still does some of the old school Rey Mysterio stuff, but he's had to change his style up to extend his career. But then it also helps guys to the point of where you're a complete independent guy or ROH or whatever, like a AJ Styles was, or a Kevin Owens, or a Sami Zayn, or even a Claudio Castagnoli, aka Cesaro. Is they've taken that independent style that they've had and they've molded it into a WWE style that works.
And do you think it works well because of the young talent that they're working with? Because we've seen where a Daniel Bryan. Okay, if you go back and watch Daniel Bryan's match at WrestleMania 30 with Triple H, which I did recently, I was on a Daniel Bryan kick for a couple days where I was like, I want to just watch some Daniel Bryan before he, quote, retired. And Triple H was wrestling Daniel Bryan's style.
Yep.
Which give Triple H credit on that. But then you've got Seth Rollins is wrestling that style, that ROH style, that independent style. Do you think a lot of that has to do with the crop of talent that they're with? Or do you think that some of those guys can bring that type of match out of anyone? Once again, all of the guys that you just mentioned have worked with John Cena. And John Cena adapted.
Yeah.
Or do you think some of those guys would kind of get left out in the cold trying to adapt themselves to that style?
I think so. I think some guys can bring it out in people and have great matches with whoever. I think some guys get left in the cold because there's been matches with Seth Rollins, and all you got to do is look at the WrestleMania 31. That's when they were in San Fran, right? Yeah.
Yes.
WrestleMania 31, that opening match, Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton. Everybody knows the type of match Randy Orton wrestles. It's very slow. It's very slow paced. It's very methodical. But that match that he wrestled against Seth Rollins was boom, 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 boom. Especially when Seth Rollins went to go hit the curb stomp and he flipped him up and hit him with the RKO. It was like that.
Such a beautiful moment.
Like that match, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins got Randy Orton out of that slow, methodical pace to a degree and wrestled a entertaining style of a match.
So recently, NXT WWE signed Killer Cross.
Yes.
We've had Punishment Martinez from Ring of Honor come over. Keith Lee is one of the standouts. Donovan Dijak, is another one of those. There's so many of these talents that have been signed recently that have had great success. Do you think that the WWE product is going to change based on these guys, so that maybe future stars from New Japan that come over don't have the Shinsuke or the Kenta issue?
That's what I'm thinking. I think Vince McMahon and the brain trust of WWE has now maybe seen their error to a degree bringing over someone from Japan or whoever it be. They saw their error in the ways of when they brought up Mystico and he became Sin Cara, and he had trouble because dude couldn't talk English. Okay? You had that. You had that same problem with Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, granted, Asuka's promos nowadays are hilarious when she's just yelling Japanese gibberish, which is fantastic. But when you first brought like a Nakamura and Asuka over, they needed that mouthpiece, but they had that lineage of Japanese royalty, basically, as far as Japanese wrestling royalty, and I think it hurt them in the long run. Because the typical WWE fan didn't know a damn thing about them.
Which is why their presentation in NXT was crucial.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And that's why both of them stayed in NXT as long as they did. But the thing that benefited them both is when Asuka was down there, Asuka had Ember Moon, she had Bayley, she had the stars that are on the roster now. Same thing with Nakamura. When Nakamura was there, he had Samoa Joe, he had Kevin Owens, he had Finn Balor. Like, he had guys to wrestle that could work his style of match. And then when they got up to the main roster, it was, Asuka had a hell of a run when in NXT, but when she got to the main roster, she was still being touted as this undefeatable monster. But if you looked at her matches, like, the matches weren't as good. Same thing with Nakamura. The matches weren't as good. And granted, we talked about it before, the WrestleMania match with Nakamura and AJ Styles. Everybody, like, when they announced it, everybody's like, yo, we're gonna get a Wrestle Kingdom style match. And I told people, I'm like, no, you're not. I was like, one, it's gonna be crucial where they put that match because of the crowd. I was like, if that match would have came out, like, second, like when Charlotte and Asuka came out, they probably would have been fine.
Yeah.
But that match came on when it did, and it was like, the crowd was drained. The crowd had nothing left.
Well, I mean, it's reminiscent, in a weird way, of, Undertaker and Brock.
Yes.
Sucked. No, actually, I'll do one better. Instead of a depressing Undertaker match, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25. Probably one of the most emotionally draining matches, and you saw it for the rest of the show.
Yep.
Because you had a triple threat for the World Heavyweight title, and then you had Triple H versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship, and the crowd
was just not there.
Was because Undertaker and Shawn Michaels performed their asses off to the point where they sucked the crowd's energy out. Very much in the same way, shockingly to some, that Asuka and Charlotte did it. Like, it was extremely difficult for anyone to follow that. And you still had, Ronda Rousey, showing up and whatnot that night. And that match drained the audience. And then shortly after, you had AJ and Nakamura in a Wrestle Kingdom rematch. And I mean, and another person that maybe we should put in this conversation, because I'm so high on him. This last year he's really become one of my favorites. Moxley's ability to wrestle the New Japan and that style on major platforms, because there are several. I mean, he's having these kind of matches on AEW television, but he's also going overseas and representing New Japan as one of their champions. And, he's doing so by incorporating things that are going on AEW television over there. Something as subtle as the eye patch that he's currently wearing completely makes me buy into his character even more.
Oh, absolutely.
He's keeping continuity because he knows, hey, I'm wearing an eye patch on Wednesday night, but I'm wrestling over here in Osaka on Saturday. But they've seen pictures of me on Facebook and know I'm wearing an eye patch over here.
Yep.
And the matches, I find it funny that 2 years ago I would not have believed that Dean Ambrose could have pulled off that kind of style, even though I knew he did his time on the independents. I thought he got too ingratiated in the WWE style. But now I can't even remember a Dean Ambrose match because Jon Moxley's having the matches of a lifetime. Right now.
Absolutely. As I stated the last time around, the Dean Ambrose is dead.
Yes.
There is no Dean Ambrose. And if the skies should open up and the hand of God comes down and goes, Jon Moxley will return to the WWE one day, he's not going to come back as Dean Ambrose. He's going to go back as Jon Moxley.
Which, marketing-wise, there would be some fans who were a little bit weird, who might be a little weird by that.
Oh, yeah.
All it would take is a Jake Hager promo to end all of that. All it would take is be like, the copyrighted name they gave me, that's crap.
Yep.
I'm not coming out to that. I'm Jon Moxley. That's who I am. That's who my wife married. Deal with it.
Yep.
Hey, sweetie. And then, boom, you're off to the races with his character.
Exactly. It's the thing of, if you look at everybody that's been building around, and a lot of people have even said this, is you look at what Nick Aldis is doing in NWA.
Please talk about that, because we mention it on the shows, but why do people need to tune into this on YouTube? Like, I don't feel enough people either know about it or know how goddamn good that show is.
Oh my god! And the thing is the NWA has become that perfect mix of new style mixed with the old style. And
I will concur with that. I will absolutely agree.
And Nick Aldis is phenomenal. Nick Aldis as the NWA heavyweight champion is phenomenal. And people are going, why haven't the WWE signed this guy? He's married to Mickie James. It's because Nick Aldis doesn't need the WWE.
Oh.
He doesn't.
Preach it. No, preach it. I'm going to let you have a soapbox because I'm feeling your thought process. Go at it.
It's the thing of Nick Aldis is one of the best professional wrestlers in the last 2 years, and he's proved it on almost every time he gets in the ring. And the thing and he's proved it with the storytelling with the 10 pounds of gold, his match against Cody, the rematch against Cody, and then now with NWA and his matches, the matches that he's had, and the man just had a phenomenal match with Robert Morton of all people. It was like he can do no wrong. And he doesn't need the WWE. Yeah, his wife, Mickie James, works for the WWE. She's out injured currently. But he doesn't need them. Just like Marty Scurll doesn't need them.
Ooh, okay. Because, all right, let me add to your NWA.
Okay.
And then we'll get into Marty. Because Marty is a completely different beast right now.
Oh, absolutely.
No pun intended. But as far as Nick Aldis goes, and as far as NWA Power goes, when I heard that Billy Corgan had purchased the 10 pounds of gold, the rights to the NWA, I thought to myself, first off, as a wrestling fan, I already knew that Billy Corgan had been in the business, okay? I knew he was a hellacious wrestling fan. And I was curious as to what he was going to do. The presentation of the 10 Pounds of Gold show on YouTube was definitely different. But more importantly than that, to me, what the NWA Power represents, a lot of fans, a lot of older fans, love to go back and watch or love to talk about the bygone era of 80s wrestling.
Yep.
Okay? Even myself, I will go back in my DVDs and I'll watch old Dusty. I'll watch old Flair. I'll watch Roddy Piper from the NWA studios with Gordon Soley, and I'll watch those shows where they've got, the crowd with the 4 rows of bleachers that's right next to the ring and all that. That is what they are presenting, and it's done in a way that's, once again, it's familiar but new. It's old, but it's young. It's everything that you want. And I'm telling you right now, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't checked out that show, if Pat G didn't sell you on it, I don't know who is, because he's selling it just as good. But then,
not to mention with the NWA Power is, I can't really say too much about AEW because AEW has done it a little bit, but with the NWA Power, their production team doesn't cut the camera every 5 seconds.
Oh my God, you're still pissed off about Edge's spear, aren't you?
I'm pissed off about the WWE production in general.
You're gonna blow a gasket, and you're even gonna blow a gasket when I say this next name, Marty, the villain, Skrull, has not gone to AEW. In fact, he's staying with Ring of Honor, dude.
Yep.
He's staying with Ring of Honor. He is now helping with creative. So this leads to a whole plethora of questions. Okay, first off, why did he make this decision? That's the first one. Secondly, if he had an out and a reason to leave, why didn't he take the opportunity to go down and work in AEW? Why isn't he trying to get on this national and potentially international platform when AEW expands? Because right now they're predominantly, doing the United States gimmick, but recently they've been on international waters with Chris Jericho's cruise.
Yep.
What do you think it is that kept him there?
I don't know, but the main reason that I said Marty Scurll doesn't need WWE is because Marty Scurll turned them down. Because there was a report that was out there that the WWE deal had offered there was a deal that WWE had offered him or whatever, and ROH came back and basically offered him what was reported as WWE main roster money along with some unique perks. So I honestly think Marty Scurll looked at wrestling and went, everybody's expecting me to go to AEW. A lot of people are expecting me to say, well, you know what? I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to go to WWE. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what I want to do and help a company that I've been a part of for the last year or so build even more. And be a voice for the younger talent that is going to be coming up in the next few years in ROH. And he's decided to stay with ROH and go, I don't need WWE. I don't need AEW. I'm a talent all by myself. My name represents itself. People knows my name. People know my brand, Villain Enterprises. And that's plain and simple. And he's going to go out and do what he does night in, night out in the ring, and also be that guy behind the scenes helping the creative direction of ROH with guys that have been doing it for years in Hunter Johnson aka Delirious.
You know, the funny part for me in this scenario is last year around this time, closer to WrestleMania, Marty was involved in the Ring of Honor Heavyweight Championship Triple Threat match.
He was.
At Madison Square Garden, G1 Supercard. Okay. There had been rumors that Marty was coming up to the nearing the end of his contract, and that Marty was thinking of leaving, which may have been a factor as to why Marty didn't walk out of the Garden with the goddamn title that night. Do you know how many people were shocked? Legitimately shocked in that building.
Oh, I can imagine.
Dude, that match was almost built for Marty to finally get the gold and have everyone be like, affirmation. Marty is just as an integral part of the Bullet Club, the Elite, as anyone else is. In fact, he even had matches against Nick Aldis, who we mentioned previously, for the NWA title.
Yep.
Marty is absolutely what you said. Marty is a Class A talent. He is definitely a first-round draft pick.
And and the fact that the man is only 31 years old.
And he's got a character that is just so, just so intriguing.
Yep.
We don't use that word enough. His entrance, his presentation, it's intriguing. And the funny part about it is it's like, you can't bring an umbrella into any other show. In fact, I'll give you a prime example of this. The introduction for Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, where they had the screen in the background, and, the rain is coming down, and Okada is holding an umbrella. I was in a text message with a friend who said, ripping off Marty much?
Yep.
You can't even have an umbrella near any other wrestler without the first thing you think of is Marty.
Oh, absolutely.
Character.
And then, and then if you really look at it, because of course we've mentioned Marty Scurll has the deal with all this and for the NWA Championship. What it looks like so far is you have the potential of AEW getting into bed with New Japan Pro Wrestling. But then on the flip side of that, you have the potential of the NWA getting into bed with Ring of Honor.
Which all these cross-pollinations, it's not bad.
It's not bad. And then in the middle of it, you have the big conglomerate of WWE.
Which, if they were smart, they would somehow figure out to do business with some of these companies. Okay, because this is to me what it boils to, and and there's other companies out there that we could throw into this mix, because Impact, I still feel gets overlooked, and I know that the publicity they've gotten from the Tessa Blanchard victory is growing. A lot of wrestlers are giving their opinions of it, but guess what? They're talking about that product. Also, let's talk about, fans don't know about it, but MLW.
Yes.
That is a company on the rise. Recently, they made a hell of an acquisition by acquiring the best ring announcer in professional wrestling, Mark Adam Haggerty, as their ring announcer. He is the man. He works for Chikara. He works on the Independents. He's a phenomenal human being. Love that dude to death. Richard Holiday.
He's a man. He's a man that might be making an appearance on the podcast soon.
Dude, I've shared locker room space with him. Absolute class act, a gentleman. He oozes professional wrestling.
Oh, absolutely.
I look at him and I think professional wrestler. The first time I saw him, I was like, that's a face for television. not my ugly ass. I'm thinking, shit, I got a face for radio. But I mean, you look at MLW, they're starting to grow.
Yep.
Impact is still making traction. It would be smart for WWE to put shows like that eventually on their network. Or
not to mention MLW has reportedly had talks with Amazon. They're in co-working agreements with AAA and Dragon Gate. It's the thing of MLW's on the rise, but MLW's also going, hey, we're one wrestling company, but we can work with other wrestling companies and raise everybody's stock at once.
If MLW gets a weekly Prime show, that will be as big as when Lucha Underground was on El Rey Network.
Oh, absolutely.
I think MLW will pick up even more steam being on Prime. Because once again, content providers need new content. And I am going to go to the book of Ted. Okay? Ted Turner deserves more credit than maybe he gets.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Ted Turner knew what drew eyes to WTBS. He knew what people wanted to watch. The number one program on TBS since when it was its inception began was wrestling.
Yep.
Pro wrestling. Amazon would be wise beyond all compare to put a weekly wrestling show on their on-demand service. Because strangely enough, Glow, which is a fictional television show, is one of the highest rated shows on Netflix. Could you imagine if Netflix paid for a weekly television show and recorded it out of their studio in New York?
Oh, God.
And imagine if a company like MLW was the one that got the money.
Yeah.
Blew your mind there.
Yeah, it did. Because the amount of subscribers to Netflix would increase tenfold.
And you would have that casual wrestling fan being like, MLW, what's this? Click, and then you have an entire new audience, especially considering that one of the big critiques, and it's cool that, we could talk about it briefly, is that the Ruthless Aggression television show is going to be docuseries.
Yes.
I guess is the word. Is going to be premiering on the network as kind of the companion, the next step in the Monday Night War series. And it's got brand new interviews, and it doesn't look like they've got any canned bullshit. It looks like it's straight up brand new interviews, because they've got a very Ernest P. Worrell looking John Cena being interviewed, talking about it. You have this constant critique that WWE killed the market. WWE made it impossible for any promotions to get traction. And yet you and I, throughout this entire hour, have just given you 6 alternatives to WWE programming that you could watch. That imagine if a streaming service picked up on it, other than like the Fight TV app or New Japan.
Yeah, and what's funny is when you brought up the Ruthless Aggression docuseries where it picks up where the Monday Night War series ended, basically. Right now they have 5 episodes listed. You have It's Time to Shake Things Up, which is basically coming off the Monday Night War, the acquisition of WCW and whatnot, and then the departure of established superstars like Steve Austin and The Rock. You had episodes 2, Enter John Cena, Evolution, The Next Big Thing, and then the Civil War Raw vs. SmackDown, when they went to that very first brand draft.
Yep. All all of those are awesome episodes because, one of the knocks that initially happened with the Monday Night War documentary, I don't know if we talked about this when we were in the locker rooms together, was that I think people thought that the first season of the Monday Night War was only 4 episodes. Because as funny as it sounds, like, you did The War Begins, Austin era, the NWO episode, and then like another episode, and it just ended, and people were like, what's this? And then like a week or 2 later, all of the episodes were available for streaming.
And the thing, and we've talked about it in locker rooms and everything from our days of OSPW and other various other places. The thing with the Monday Night Wars docuseries was it was so WWE centric that it was more about it was the story from the WWE side of things.
Yes, and I mean, in you recently told me to get my little hands on the Guy Evans
Nitro book. Yes.
book.
Yes.
Okay, which I am doing this week. I'm going to order it on Amazon and get that shipped here. Because there is a whole there's a whole different side to the war than people acknowledge, because you have to remember, and it's a classic saying, the people that write the history books are the ones that won the war.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And over the last few years as a WCW fan, I myself didn't realize the turmoil that was going on. Even Diamond Dallas Page in Positively Unstoppable mentions that really what killed WCW was the Time Warner AOL merge.
Oh yeah, that was, and the thing is if you've listened to 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, and they recap a shit ton of WCW pay-per-views and nitros and whatnot. But Bischoff gets into it, especially when you cover the later ones where it's like the 99 pay-per-views and the 2000 pay-per-views, and for anybody that hasn't read the Guy Evans Nitro book, which I had, me being the WCW mark that I am, like, once they started talking about it, and then they had the episode where they talked with Guy Evans about the book, about certain points, I was like, yo, I gotta get this book. And I got this book, and holy mother of God, the amount of research this man did is phenomenal. I'm hoping he does. I do hear back from him, because I'm trying to get him on the show to discuss the book. Hence why I told you to get your hands on said book. Because
I wasn't going to say it, but sure, if you want to say that you're getting a hold of him for the show, by all means, this is your cat. Let that shit.
Like I'm hoping I do get a hold. I'm waiting for a response. I'm hoping he does respond and everything, because the amount of stuff that so many people do not know about the failure of WCW. Because all they do know is from the WWE end of things, is if you listen to 83 Weeks and you read this book, you get a vast knowledge of why WCW failed. And yeah, the biggest part of it is the AOL Time Warner merger, but even before then, it was falling apart at the seams in late 98, early 99. And throughout 99 into 2000, like, the seams were slowly getting, how you pull a piece of cloth apart and the seams just periodically just get stretched longer and longer, and then they finally snap. Like, that's basically what happened to WCW from 99 to 2001.
Now, it's interesting that we're mentioning that this is the Monday Night War series was very WWE painting itself as being, both victim and conqueror.
Yes.
A lot of those episodes, it was, we were hitting the poverty line, and we didn't know if we were going to get paychecks here, and oh my God, it was such a rough time. And then all of a sudden it's like, we getting paid, bitch. And it's weird to paint yourself as, like, JBL did a great job of it as victims.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Victors. But with what I can tell of the ruthless aggression, really, are they going to admit that they stumbled for several years trying to figure out where they were going? Are they going to talk about the fact that the wrestling audience dropped off?
Oh, absolutely. And this is the
talk about the fact that SmackDown made Raw its bitch for several years.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the thing, is if, like, you listen, and I'm going to say this now, Conrad Thompson, the Podfather, so the amount of research that man does, and granted, yes, a lot of the research he has is Wrestling Observer and Dave Meltzer and the other guy, I can't remember his name right now.
Dave
Alvarez and Wade Keller.
Yep.
Like, a lot of his research are from those main three people. But if you listen to that, if you take the stuff that's complete bullshit, that is marked as bullshit by Bischoff and Bruce Pritchard, and you take the actual factual stuff where, like, he's talking about TV ratings and everything, yes, WWE was losing, but they weren't losing that bad. Like, it was like there were one episode I listened, and they're going over the ratings for, like, the month or whatever shows, and Nitro was at like a 5.2, Raw was at like a 3.4, Nitro was a 5.6, Raw was a 3.7, Nitro was a 4.8, Raw was a 3.2. Like, it wasn't as bad as they're trying to make you seem it was.
And, the funny part about that is because we can go, we already did earlier this week when we discussed why Charlotte Flair would go to NXT.
Yes.
The funny part about it is that the numbers that you just described are not nearly as bad as the 2000s Monday Night War ratings, where Nitro would have like a 2.1 and Raw would have a 6.8.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, there were episodes where they would be talking about, like, the 2000 WCW pay-per-views or Nitros, and, like, Nitro would have a rating of like 2.6, Raw would be a 5.8 or whatever, and it'd be like, okay. And Eric Bischoff is very business orientated, and that he's like, and he'd come out, he's like, a 5, like, okay, that's like a 3.0 rating difference or whatever. That's really only an X of number of millions of people difference. And the ratings with NXT and AEW, where, yeah, AEW's getting the bump and everything from whatever they're doing and whatnot, but, like, in TV rating wise, it's not that much different. It's only a few 100,000 or whatever it is.
Which, this week, viewership on both shows is up.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I believe AEW's show this week had a bump of over 100,000 new viewers.
Oh, yeah, because they got a bump in that last 45 minutes because, for one, everybody in the city of Buffalo is watching AEW every week, anytime that the Butcher and Blade are talked about.
And I mean, coming up soon, the entire city of Rochester is going to be watching AEW.
Yeah, I noticed it this week. Everybody, the people I'm friends with in Rochester were talking about AEW Dark and Colin Delaney getting his shot there.
Yep, and also the let's just say the impending arrival of a potential large acquisition to AEW from the Rochester area.
Oh yeah,
I mean, but that's all speculation. We don't know if.
Not to mention AEW AEW is slated to be in Rochester later this year.
Yeah, in March. Not saying anything potential there, ladies and gentlemen. But,
Not saying anything won't. Not saying somebody very large and bearded won't show up.
Yeah, you never know about that one. But AEW's product is also really, really improving. And
oh yeah,
I have to admit when I speak too soon about certain things. I think I spoke too soon about the AEW women's division because, man, Britt Baker, Britt Baker
turning heel was the best thing she could have done.
Did you see that arm lock into the Kong mouth jaw opening? Like,
into the lockjaw, and then the reversal, and then after the match, she's like puts the lockjaw on the ropes and kicks the woman in the back of the head, knocking a tooth out.
I am just gonna say, if that's how Bayley's heel turn would have gone, so much cooler it would have been.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you're right. When it comes to AEW and NXT, the ratings are just marginally separated. I mean, it wouldn't take much, maybe one or two changes to either roster to have a several million point spread between.
Absolutely. and not saying that she ever would, okay? Because when Britt Baker lost last night on AEW, people were talking about, Britt Baker's losing, and well, maybe she's going to be on her way out to join Adam Cole in NXT. Listen, all right, I highly doubt that's going to happen, but if it does, if Britt Baker ends up leaving AEW and going to NXT, then Britt Baker needs to be a heel and she needs to join the Undisputed Era. End of story.
Yeah, and the funny part about it is that there's this weirdness where people are they want to see wrestlers leave, but they don't want to see them leave at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, Britt Baker is a case of this, where, when she accidentally was seen on WWE television, NXT television, during the Undisputed Era's War Game match, people and
that was the thing, like WWE acknowledged her, but she was an AEW star, Britt Baker. She's Adam Cole's girlfriend, Britt Baker.
Yeah, and I mean, and even the statement was made like, "Hey, I don't want any heat for this girl. We showed her. We respect AEW."
Yeah, it was camera guy kind of was looking for the most like esponged look in the crowd, and of course it's your star's girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. It's like she's thinking in her head like, "You stupid ass." Like, every girl was. This is why women live longer than men, ladies and gentlemen. You want to know why? Go back and watch that Tommaso Ciampa drop, and then look at Britt Baker's face. That's why men live less, years on this planet than our significant others. But I digress. I don't want to see her leave AEW because I don't think she's reached her max potential.
No, not at all.
It was that company.
To be honest, Britt Baker's only been in wrestling a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, she has yet to thrive, and I mean, she has got a great look. She's got credentials that you could really build around, and not only that, but it's like, give her time to get over and then take the bigger money deal.
Yeah.
For God's sakes, ladies and gentlemen, you know, when Vince McMahon stole Dustin from Dusty and made him Gold Dust, it's like he telegraphed it. He goes, "Go with your father, get over, and I'll steal you back." And he did. He did. And he made him Gold Dust, and he made him a shitload of money. But, you know, the Revival recently, the rumors started spreading against the Revival.
They got offered $700,000.
Yeah, come on, guys. Like,
I'm just that's one of the things is the Revival's contracts are up in April from all in reports. They did add 10 weeks due to the injuries or whatever.
yeah.
But imagine the craziness that if come April the Revival leave, okay? They're off WWE TV. Where's the Revival? And come that weekend in Chicago of All Out, they show up in an AEW ring across from the Young Bucks. Wrestling loses its shit.
Yeah, and I mean, that is highly plausible.
Oh, very.
Highly plausible. I mean, kind of like, wouldn't it be something if, you know, Brody Lee shows up on AEW television?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially if Brody Lee shows up and ends up assisting Jon Moxley.
Exactly. I mean, because, and to be blunt, those two had a phenomenal series of matches. Brody's matches in WWE when he was having his Intercontinental Championship run, those were great matches. He was really stepping out and becoming his own champion at that time, his own, you know, star.
Yeah, he was.
And his time with the Bludgeon Brothers was great. His time with the Wyatt family was great. That would be a talent that I would love to see in AEW. There's others, obviously, that I'd like to see, but not everyone from WWE that didn't get a shot, quote unquote, should show up on TNT. That would be just like we've talked about, 94 to 97 WCW.
Yeah, it was like I couldn't, and this was the thing, like, when Hulk Hogan signed with WCW, he had been away for a few months because he was doing Thunder in Paradise and all that.
The steroid trial and
all that. So, like, when WCW signed Hogan, I was kind of like, wow, okay. Hogan went to all right. And at the time I was watching NWA/WCW whatever because I was a fan of it. I watched WCW Saturday night on TBS, and then like Macho Man came over and Hacksaw Jim Duggan came over and
Nasty Boys
and the Nasty and like Hogan's crew, so to speak. Okay,
yeah,
and it was kind of like, all right. It's different. It's different. It's giving WCW name value.
Yep.
Cool. And then Nitro started. But I was like, and listen, 95, 96, I'm 12 and 13, okay? I don't know the internet. I'm like, yes, I'm a wrestling fan, but it's not like I'm reading the dirt sheets and calling the WCW hotline and all this nonsense. Like, people were. Like, I was just a fan. I was watching it.
Yeah.
But that episode of Monday Night Nitro, when Scott Hall walked through the crowd, I was like, yo, what is Razor Ramon doing on WCW television?
Because we didn't know as fans.
We didn't.
What we know now. I mean, probably there was a little bit of an inkling because, like, one week Scott Hall is there at a pay-per-view fighting Vader, and Vader beats him and he disappears, and then, like, 2 weeks later, he shows up on Nitro.
Yeah.
But it's not like it is today when Jon Moxley leaves WWE and they give him a giant send-off
And he's kind of off the grid for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, Jon Moxley's going to New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yep, because of the promos that were cut, the videos.
Yeah. And then we're like, okay, that's cool. And then all of a sudden, Jon Moxley shows up in AEW.
Not just at AEW, but their second pay-per-view.
Yeah.
which now, as announced, is becoming an annual event at the MGM Grand.
Yes, it is. And this is the thing, is, like we stated earlier, wrestling has become so accessible and business orientated that you have these companies working together. MLW working with AAA and Dragon Gate. And ROH, there could be a potential ROH and NWA partnership. There could be a potential AEW and New Japan relationship. Now, fantasy booking hat here. What if WWE sees this, and with all the shakeups that they've had, where they released the presidents and everything, and Vince McMahon kind of sees all this, everybody kind of like working together, and Vince McMahon decides to go, maybe that's something that we need to do, and because of one man. And you know the man, his initials are easily Double J. Maybe fantasy booking wise, there's WWE works out something with the little country, with the little engine that could, and it won't go away. Impact Wrestling,
dude. I would love to see it based on the fact that then we could get the Daughters of the Horseman match that we've talked about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Sami Callihan. And, they've got... I mean, they already did work a deal out, at least for that Legend show, so that Rob Van Dam could come over.
Yep.
So it's not unheard of that they would work something out with them. I mean, WWE has kind of done that with... Like, when the Horsemen were inducted, they borrowed Ric Flair for a night. And it's kind of like, quid pro quo. You help us, we'll help you.
Or the trade off of Ric Flair doing the Hall of Fame induction was Christian returning for a night.
Exactly. And I mean, it's like, why not do that kind of stuff? Why not just have a superstar that you wouldn't imagine just show up and have a match with Sami Callihan? You know what I mean? Like, have Sasha Banks versus Tessa Blanchard. Why not? Have Tessa Blanchard put a call out and be like, anyone who thinks that they could be in the wrestling world, come, and all of a sudden, the boss's music hits.
What's her face? Jordan Grace is called, and nobody can beat me, and all of a sudden, the fully healthy returning Nia Jax shows up.
Exactly, and I mean, she's looking good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Very trim.
She's looking fantastic, and her recovery is going quite well.
Yeah, and speaking of returns, we didn't even mention the fact that the man could have a real challenge on her hands coming up now that, Ruby Riott is back.
That's true.
See, we forgot, because we're so kind of like what we did when we were talking about our Royal Rumble predictions a couple weeks ago, where Charlotte Flair wasn't even in our
no, she wasn't.
Rules. Ruby Riott and the man have never faced off.
They have not. And it seems like Ruby Riott's kind of got more, is kind of channeling that the independent version, independent name of herself in Highly Loveless.
She looked great for having double shoulder surgery.
Oh, absolutely.
She looked jacked.
She did.
And she looks just as gorgeous as she always has walking out there. But just her fluidity the way she was able to move around the ring, the way she was able to, just the brief period of time, she looks great.
Oh, absolutely.
She looks ready. She looks healed. She looks main event for WrestleMania ready.
She does. She definitely does, and that would be a hell of a match, her and Becky Lynch.
And I think it would save Shayna Baszler to stay down in NXT. I really do honestly believe if they want to compete in this ratings war 2.0 with AEW, they need to keep all the star power that they can get. And while now I will admit the AEW's women's roster is
starting to step up.
Starting to step out, and starting to flash out, and starting to be noticed and seen.
Yeah.
It's still nowhere near.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
Especially when when there's the whispers and rumors of a triple threat match at WrestleMania between Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and Bianca Belair.
I don't even know how that one would go. I really don't know how that one could go because the Est of NXT, I mean, I'm sorry. From the moment I saw her in the Mae Young Classic and she did the hair whip thing, like she was a character out of Mortal Kombat, I was like, son of a bitch, I'm in. Like, her action figure even has posable, whippable hair.
Yep. And just everything about Bianca Belair, the attitude, the aura, and everything that she does, she's got it.
She reminds me of a non-watered down Sasha Banks.
Oh, absolutely.
Sasha Banks, 2014.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Like she's like the new edition of what the Boss was in NXT.
Yeah. And her presentation of herself, it oozes confidence.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I like to see, especially.
And she's young. And she is young.
Especially when she's going up there promo for promo against Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair.
Oh, absolutely. Like the fact when she dropped the "you don't even go here" line, I popped. I was like, yo, I'm sold.
Yeah.
I was like, give me Charlotte versus Bianca. I'm sold.
And I think that they were kind of leading to that anyway. But the fact that they're going all out for it, and they're like, yeah, if they do this, it's going to be a triple threat. Dude, that's a marquee match right there.
Oh, absolutely, because you have Charlotte Flair, who has all the accolades and everything, and she's going to do nothing. And even if Charlotte Flair loses that match, Charlotte Flair does nothing but bring up Rhea Ripley and or Bianca Belair, or both.
Exactly.
And raises their stock.
Exactly. Much like her father used to do with certain wrestlers.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the thing as we're getting close to like wrapping up here, is whether you're a fan of WWE, whether you're a fan of MLW, whether you're a fan of NWA, New Japan, ROH, Impact, PWG, Chikara, your local independent fed, where here in Buffalo the big name is ESW. Out there by you, I can't really say who it is.
There are so many out here in the capital region. You can throw a stone and pick a good promotion. You've got World of Hurt Wrestling. You've got Mortal Championship Wrestling. Rumor has it that Dynasty Pro Wrestling is coming back.
Oh wow!
You have a new organization for Survival Pro Wrestling just started up. You can throw a stone in this region and find great wrestling.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And through New York State itself, in Buffalo you have ESW, you have Nickel City, Rochester you have UPW, like, you have so many, like, local feds that you can go to on a Saturday and enjoy a wrestling show or whatever. And then as far as, like, being in Buffalo, you could travel up into Canada. There's Smash Wrestling up there. There's Beyond Wrestling. Like, down in Ohio, there's a couple of good feds. It's the thing of, like, at the end of the day, pro wrestling is in a true renaissance because of the accessibility, the amount of content, live, online, social media, and so much more. It's mind-blowing that if you would have looked at us 15 years ago after WCW had been gone for a couple of years and all that pretty much remained was WWE, and would have been like, hey, in 15 years, there's going to be a shit ton of wrestling around, I'd have been like, I don't know about that. Wrestling's kind of not as popular right now. I don't know about that. But now it's like... And then on top of it, you have people that are not wrestling fans or are wrestling fans, but they're in other areas of entertainment that are like crossing over. You have Chris Jericho, wrestler, crossed over to became a multi-million-dollar rock star. You have Andy Williams, who is a basis for Every Time I Die, because he's a wrestling fan, learns how to train, and became a pro wrestler, and is on a weekly television now.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah, John Cena.
Yep.
You have pro wrestlers that are like mega movie stars now.
Yep. Dave Bautista is in one of the biggest franchises in one of the most successful movie studios there is.
It's the thing of pro wrestling has so many strings attached to various degrees of things that it's ridiculous. Hell, Stephen Amell, who's just a normal wrestling fan, ended up having a legitimate wrestling match. He's a TV superhero, and he ended up learning how to trained and had a legitimate wrestling match.
Oh, and he's, co-producing a show about professional wrestling.
Exactly.
It's like, it's gaining popularity in areas you wouldn't think it would, to the point where we are fantasy booking Tyson Fury versus Brock Lesnar down the road.
Yeah.
I mean, this is real possibilities. It's like, what a great time to be a wrestling fan. And honestly, what a great time to just sit back and appreciate the fact that you've got all of this at the palm of your hands.
Absolutely. That's where we're going to end it on episode 90 of the TTRP. Thank you for listening. We once again did a marathon episode because we felt like it. Get used to it. But I hope you enjoy. Like, subscribe, download, all that fun stuff. TTRP for Dan Fury. I'm Pat G. We are out, so see you on the flip side. The Turnbuckle Talk Radio podcast is brought to you by Gear Network and ShopGear.com. We can be listened to via Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and everywhere else you can get your podcasts. The TTRP introduction was done by Trevor Dugan. The show is hosted by Patrick Gancheski and Daniel Roberts. Post-production of the TTRP is done by Patrick Gancheski and John Cimino. If you'd like to follow us via social media, you can search Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast on Facebook. You can follow us at Twitter by using the name Turnbuckle_Talk. Or if you have questions or concerns, you can reach us via email at turnbuckletlkradio@gmail.com. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast, downloading our episodes, following us on social media, and interacting with us.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.